Hey guys, insight number 5. Just want to say, if you're looking for notes this week, there probably isn't any, and there wasn't any last week either. I'm just teaching from the scriptures, from Come Follow Me. So, anyway, 11 through 17 of chapter 10. So in chapter 10, King Laman dies, and his warrior people are just wild and ferocious and believe all sorts of false traditions, and but Zeniff and his people prevail against them. So they're continuing to fight with Christ by their sides. You want to know more about that, go look at the last one. But this is talking about feeling wronged, and that our choices and our beliefs and our culture, what we pass on through word and deed and action, has a huge influence on generations to come. Huge. We talk about cycle breakers and abuse, that there will be abusive situations in families, and then someone comes in and breaks that cycle. I'm one of those people. And I used to think that it was a rare thing. It's not. The Lord sent a whole bunch of them in this generation, and I'm one of many. And I've got some very good friends who are cycle breakers, who stood up despite all the odds against them and said enough and done, no more. And continue to spend their lives fighting for the cause of that. It's a hard thing. But I don't feel wronged. Some days I still feel hurt. Sometimes I discuss, I get really angry with Heavenly Father, and boy do I have a good shout and a real what the. But it's healing, and He's forgiving, and He just hugs me, and He's like, it'll be all right. And I trust Him in that because I've built this relationship with Him. But there are people I know who have gone through worse circumstances, not as worse circumstances, and similar circumstances for different reasons and for different things. Instead, they choose to become bitter and angry and pass it on, creating this cycle of abuse, misconception, or in this case here, actually what would be considered a racial stereotype. And they feel wronged by it. Now, there's nothing to say that you don't stand up for yourself and say, hey, the agreement that we had for an Indigenous people several hundred years ago is not being honoured by the current government, and fight for those rights. Absolutely, but there's ways to do it. There are ways to bring about change that are positive for the generations to come rather than destructive and ugly. And you will know those. You'll know people that go about, they go and they're really smart, they get law degrees and they get other things, and they know who to talk to, and they get laws passed that change things. I don't know how to do that. But then there are people who stand on the street corner and just shout at people, and that doesn't work. There are better ways to do things. So right here, they're feeling wronged. So I already talked about 11 and 12. But you're going through 13, like they're bloodthirsty, they were driven out of the land of their fathers, they felt like they've been wronged, and that Nephi hated them, and that Nephites hate them, and just, yeah. I've lived in a neighbourhood, actually, years ago, I won't say where one particular family of people who were absolutely lovely people, but there'd been an argument over something like 100 years ago, and it was still like punishing the grandchildren of this person that did the thing wrong. They're like, oh yeah, they belong to them, I don't trust them, and I'm like, well, they are individual people, I'm sure I could trust them. If I felt to trust them, I'm going to trust them. No, you shouldn't trust them, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, you're being a little, like, unchristlike with those thoughts, maybe? Yes. But it's so easy for us to have these preconceived ideals and actually put them onto people who, just because they're that, doesn't mean they're lazy or dumb or stupid. I'm ASD, I'm high functioning, but I really get annoyed when people say, oh, what's your special talent? And I'm like, I don't know. Existing? Oh, you're that, do you play piano? Are you music? I'm like, no, I'm fairly decently good at a lot of things. Fabulously good, or at any one thing? No. So I get annoyed with that judgment. I don't like that. It's like they're expecting some miracle talent to exist. I'm like, no, not really. I just try and be the best me. Yeah. So that's in there. But it says in 13 anyway, and again that they were wronged in the land of their first inheritance after they had crossed the sea, and all this because that Nephi was more faithful in keeping the commandments of the Lord. Therefore he was favoured of the Lord, for the Lord heard his prayers and answered them, and he took the lead of their journey in the wilderness. So they're still annoyed after generations that Nephi was more favoured. Now, how many times do we have to discuss this favoured thing? It doesn't make you special. It just means that you're listening and you want to have a relationship with God. Therefore, he'll have one back. And he'll give you more work to do. It doesn't really sound like favoured. It's not like you suddenly get pampered and put on this high pedestal and have everything go right for you. That's not what happens. No. It means that you want a relationship with him. He wants to know you. And he's like, awesome. Like with me, he's like, awesome, Lorraine. You're teaching online. That's great. Keep doing it. It's not your calling, but keep doing it anyway. Keep spreading the gospel. Oh, and I also need you to do this and this and this and support this person here. And I'm just like, but okay. Because I know he gives me the strength to do it. So it's in that relationship that the favoured part comes in. Doesn't make you any more special. And if you're jealous of someone being favoured, hey, we're all the Lord's favourite if you want to be there. It's a different kind of it's not like your favourite ice cream flavour and the others aren't good enough. It's literally all the ice cream is good, just that they're for different things. Different occasions maybe. Or I need each one, if you're going to have an apple pie, you need vanilla on that because you're going to put goody gumdrops or orange chocolate chip on that. It's going to not be the best. See? More work, different circumstances. Anyway, I digress. His brethren were wroth with him because they understood not the dealings of the Lord. They were also wroth with him upon the waters because they hardened their hearts against the Lord. Now this is going back to Nephi and Laman and Lemuel. And again they were wroth with him that they had arrived in the promised land because they said he had taken the ruling of the people out of their hands, and they sought to kill him. Now the reason the ruling was taken out of their hands is because they weren't being very nice. So who do you want? A wicked king or Nephi? I don't know. Nephi might have annoyed me too at times. Who knows, right? We had the most righteous bishop in the world. We could still find fault if we went looking. So, anyway, but in 17, thus they had taught their children that they should hate them. And it goes on like that, and that's why. But Zeniff, anyway, goes up against them, and again, because he's with the Lord, it's good. But then King Noah comes along and rules in the wickedness, so it gets ugly anyway. But choices, belief, and culture influence generations. So how does this make you wary of your actions and speech and knowing your influence is far-reaching? Because the things you do and the things you say, which one of us has been around a toddler and not had toddlers and said a word that the toddler then starts repeating and you're like, no, don't do that. Your mother will tell me off. Or a behaviour that you've done or something that you said and they suddenly grab onto it. People are watching. It's actually a thing. And what is your focus? And don't live in anger. There's better ways to live, better ways to things. And obsessing on what happened and not the solution, you get stuck in the way things should be, and you'll miss. My alarm going off. Obsessing on what happened, what the history of, instead of the solution. You get stuck in the way things should be, and you get with not should this and should that, and it's like, well, who said? And you control your life, so if you really want that, go work for that. Don't just say it should be handed to me because of X, Y, Z, And you miss all the multitudes of miracles that are out there, and you lose that wonderfulness that comes from knowing Jesus in a personal one-on-one experience where he provides the miracles and shows you that your should is way below what he was going to give you anyway. Even if at the time you're going, that's not what I think should happen or should be. It's like, just roll with it because I can promise you what he's got coming is way better than anything you could have shoulded. Yeah. So, there you go. That's far-reaching. How do you think that makes a difference in the world? Anyway, good stuff this week. So we're going to continue next week, obviously, reading about King Noah. We get a Abinadi coming in, and we get to read that whole story. So you catch up on the timelines, the other half of it. But great stuff, guys. Have a safe weekend out there. Thanks for joining me again. Read, you come follow me. Bye.